Okay, converted man here. All right, God is real. This guy proved it. Let's take a look at it. Here we go.
And all together totally prove there is a God. Well, today that's what we're doing.
Atheism is the real pandemic.
The first evidence for the truth that there is a God is one that most people have probably heard before, and that is the Cosmological Argument.
Yeah, this is again. Oh, good. The Cosmological Argument. Yay. I've got a video that details how wrong this is. It's been done to death. But what's interesting in this video is he can't even seem to recite the Kalam correctly. Like, he changes the wording of it. So his version is different. So let's listen to his version of the Kalam, and then I'll explain how it's still broken. Yeah, that should be fun. Hey, look, I can put myself down here. That's kind of cool. I'm going to leave myself down here.
The Kalam Cosmological Argument is a set of two factual statements.
No, it's a set of two premises and then a conclusion, but whatever, you know.
If they are both true, can lead you to certain conclusions. So the first statement that the Kalam argument makes, all things that begin to happen require that something causes them to begin. So for example...
All right, so, yeah, you heard how it's different. Like, all things that begin to happen, you know, like, what does that mean? You know, let's just replay it, because it's worth hearing again.
Happen require that something causes them to begin. So for
all things that begin to happen requires that things cause them to happen to begin. What? Huh? It's clunky. Okay, it's clunky. The way he reworded it makes it more clunky than it already was. And it was pretty clunky to begin with. So all things, which is not a thing that you can say anything about because you don't know about all things. This is a universal statement that would have to be demonstrably demonstratable, and it's not. You could at best say all things that we've observed, but that would still not really hold true, at least for this, because the wording is so clunky. You know, anyways, but basically it's stuff needs other stuff to make that stuff do stuff. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's a way to do it. Yeah, stuff needs stuff to happen to the stuff. There you go. That's how you do it. All right.
Example, if a car starts, it has to start for a reason. Putting your key.
If a car starts, it has to start for a reason. Wow. Brilliant.
In the ignition and turning it on. Now the second point that it...
Yeah, well, putting your key in the ignition and turning it on, is that the start of the car starting? Or is it like the mechanics inside of the engine that makes it go, the spark and the fuel? Like, but then my arm that is holding my hand that's holding the key, right? Then there's this infinite regress that you could keep going back. Like, okay, what caused my hand to hold the key? What caused my arm to hold my hand? What caused my arm to move the hand that was holding the key? And that's all in my brain. And then what caused my brain to begin to think about doing any of this in the first place? And then how did that start? And you could keep going backwards, right? And you go, okay, fine. We get all the way back until you have the beginning of the universe. And then you go, okay, so God, because that's where we're going with this, even though the Kalam just ends with, therefore the universe has a cause, and it has nothing really to do with God, but God's another argument that's put on top of the Kalam. Anyways, so the first thought that God has to be caused by something else. So you still have an infinite regress. It's just that infinite regress is now contained inside of God instead of the universe itself. So you didn't really solve anything, because if things still need causes, then God's thought still needs a cause. And then that cause still needs a cause. And then that cause still needs a cause. and you still have an infinite regress. So you haven't solved anything, but it doesn't matter because who cares?
Makes is that the universe started. And I think that most people would agree with this. Some people might want to dodge around this and try to claim that the universe has always existed. Logically, the universe has a start, and that start has been measured by science. The Big Bang is allegedly the start of the entire universe. So if the universe started, there must be a cause for that. Now I watched.
Well, that's not exactly what science says. That's first of all, which I already deal with in my column, Cosmological Argument. And then secondly, we don't know if there is or isn't a cause, at least in the sense that we're used to cause and effect, because when you go back to the T1 point, the problem is the physics are way different. This is where deductive reasoning doesn't really get us to the necessarily right answer. We can only use deductive reasoning or inductive reasoning so far. And the problem is deductive and or inductive reasoning works now in the physics that we understand right now. But those physics were different way back towards the beginning of the universe because things are really, really hot. And so things are different when things are super hot, like they would have been in the very early stages of the universe. So for all we know, cause and effect might not be a thing during that different physics. Now, I'm not saying that that is the case, but I'm saying that it could be the case. And because of that potential counterexample, we cannot simply conclude, well, obviously cause and effect still works. We don't know that. So we can't have the conclusion that the Kalam wants us to have. That's kind of a problem, but if you don't care about logic and reason, then it's completely not a problem.
Just one video, and I think it was from a guy named like Prophet of Zod or something stupid like that. And like he basically says, okay, but that only proves the universe has a cause. That has nothing to do with God. And so we have our good boy Noah here. And I'm gonna walk Noah through a little thought experiment, if you will. Are you ready, Noah?
I'm ready.
Noah, do you agree that all things that start have something that causes them to start?
Of course.
No, I don't. There you go. Just to be stubborn, I'm not going to agree with that. Now what? You know, I mean, who cares? Okay, anyways.
It's only logical.
Do you agree that the universe started?
Yes.
If those two things are true, what would have caused the universe to start?
Well,
we don't know would be the answer to that. If there is indeed that, if indeed that statement is correct. But this is, of course, all sorts of fallacies that I've already brought up in the KCEA video. Equivocation fallacy, you have compositional fallacy, you have the parts in the whole fallacy, that the component bits that we notice to be true of the universe are not necessarily true of the entire universe. So there's many multiple fallacies going on at once to make these comparisons work. And so the comparisons don't work. The universe isn't necessarily the same as the component pieces that we observe inside of the universe. It's a more complex thing. And of course, we have the problem of, what do you mean by a universe? There's a problem there. So if you ignore all of those fallacies, because why not? I guess you just should ignore the fallacies, because if you don't, then this argument fails. Then, well, what caused the universe? No idea would be the answer. But let's hear what the answer should be according to these guys. That'll be interesting.
There's a theory, Occam's razor. This theory basically says that the simplest answer is often the right one. The simplest answer in this case is that God created the universe.
But what my
Okay, so it's Occam's reason. I think it's Occam's whatever. Whoever's razor it is. The simplest answer is the right one or something like that. Yeah. Well, that's not exactly what it is, but it's also not always true either. But is God really a simple answer, or is it a complex answer? Depends on who you ask. And I guess it would also depend on what God is or isn't. Is God simple or is it complex? I don't know. But You're just asserting here that it's a simple answer. The simplest answer here is we don't know. We have no idea. That's actually the answer in this case. But, again, that would be using actual reason and logic, and we can't do that because we're trying to prove God, whatever God is, which we still haven't discussed what God even is in this video. So we're just using the word God, and we have no idea what God is.
Might say, well, why does that necessarily have to be the case?
The nature of what could start the universe, it would have to be something extremely powerful.
How do you know that? How do you know it'd have to be extremely powerful? Why would it have to be extremely powerful? Why couldn't it be marginally powerful? And where does it get the power from? And what do you mean by power? There's so many questions that he's just asserting as knowledge. He's just assuming that all of these things are true without demonstrating any of them true, making the answer not a simple answer, but a complicated one.
Of atheists think that it might have been another universe collapsing into itself. But yeah,
a lot of atheists think X. Really, do you have any data that shows that that's actually the case? No, of course not. This is just an easy statement to make. A lot of theists think X. How do I know that? I don't. I have no idea what a lot of theists think unless I have some sort of poll that has been conducted of many theists, like, I don't know, say 10,000 would be a good number, and says, okay, 98% of theists agree with whatever the statement is. Then you can say that. But that's not here because we don't need citations. We don't need to prove any of our points. We just need to claim things and hope that people believe those claims. Anyways, as far as a universe starting another universe or whatever, I don't know. It seems that's one possible hypothesis of many possible hypotheses that are out there for explaining cosmology. But those hypotheses aren't necessarily being made by atheists. They're being made by cosmologists who might be religious. So what we would want then is a list of cosmologists and to put their names and their what their degree is in and all that, and then what they believe in. Are they a Christian, a Catholic, an atheist, a Muslim, some Scientologist, lizard people, flat earth, or whatever the bleep they believe in, and put that to the side there. And then we go, okay, among all these cosmologists, here's the different hypotheses that they have proposed for explaining cosmology. And then you'd have a data set to draw from, and then you could actually, sure, that's a lot of work. We're not going to do any of that.
That might work, but if it's just that over and over and over, something must have had to start it. So logically, there is no other explanation than something creating it.
We look at
yes, the assertion that, well, it has to be the answer that I want it to be. I mean, it just has to be that. It can't be anything else. This is an appeal to personal incredulity. I can't think of any other answer, so it must be my answer. But we don't know what the answer is, so it doesn't have to be any particular answer. It might be any given answer, or it might be a combination of answers. For all we know, there was a God that created everything, but during the creation of it, it died in order for it to be created. That it started the universe, but in doing so, it killed itself doing it. That it made the universe, but it took all of its energy, so it died. Why not? Why is that impossible? Well, because then you don't have God around anymore, and that would ruin your theology. So we have to pretend that God survived the making of the universe. So how do you know that? You don't. But you don't know what God is anyways, and you never bothered to tell us what you think God is. So we're just guessing that what you mean by God at this point. But whatever. And it's not my argument to foul up. It's your argument to foul up. So go on.
The universe, and the universe has laws of physics. There's a rule set to the universe. The universe isn't this totally chaotic mess. Whatever had to have created the universe, on top of being extremely powerful, more powerful than the entire universe itself, it has to.
Okay, well, this is another compositional fallacy, because the current universe, the power of the current, what does that even mean? Because if you do the math, I think the total energy of the universe equals out to 0. So you just have to be greater than 0 then, which is me and all humanity and insects and plants and anything that produces energy or consumes energy at any level, which means a molecule could have created the universe. A subatomic particle could have created the universe. Oops. But, again, we're not going to apply actual logic or reason to any of this. We're just going to assert things and pretend that they're true without proving that any of it's true, because that's just apologetics. That's just what you do. You just pretend until you get the conclusion you want. Sounds great. Yeah, this proves everything. It proves lobsters made the universe. Why not?
To be something that can construct consistent laws that exist throughout the entire universe. At that point, it definitely has.
And it also could be something that doesn't need any laws at all. Like, why would it need to make laws? And the laws, by the way, that certain things behave in certain ways. We call those things laws. But the fact that the thing can't behave in any other way than the way that it behaves doesn't mean that it had to be made that way. It is that way, by virtue of that's how it works. And if it couldn't be any other way than that way, then that puts a limit on your creator, meaning that creator couldn't have made it any other way but this one way, which makes your creator rather limited in scope and power. But again, not my concern, because I'm not the one claiming there's a creator. You are. So we have a powerful creator that's not that powerful, because it just has to be greater than the sum total of 1 for energy output. So it could be anything at this point. And then it has to make things the exact way that the universe is, because it can't not make them a different way. So it's limited in scope of ability. What else can't your God do?
Has to be something conscious. An atheist might question, well, why? Seems like circular reasoning. Well, think about it, right? If the universe...
Well, I wouldn't say circular reasoning. I would say this is a bald assertion. You simply asserted that it has to be this without proving it, without arguing for it, without anything. You just said that it was true. So that would be the correct fallacy. So, yeah.
Really just came into being just as like random nature, right? You would go into different parts of the universe, and different parts of the universe would have different laws of physics. There's no
why would that be the case? I guess it's just pure assertion. But I would say, for all we know, other parts of the universe do have different physics. Now, I don't know that that's the case. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know that it is or isn't. I'm no cosmologist, and neither are you. But for all you know, it could be in some other section of the universe, the laws of physics are very different. And then that would make your whole presentation here false. Now, we assume, and it seems to be, that the laws of physics are uniform throughout, based on what we've observed thus far. And that seems to be working for now, as far as hypotheses and theories go. So until we find out that we're wrong about it, then we're fairly safe with the models that we have. You don't have a model here, though. You just have pure assertion. that if it was random, then this would be the result. Well, random is another problem, because random actually isn't even really necessarily a thing in the first place. And then to suggest that the universe it just came from a random event, well, yes, and also kind of no, because there's a filtering mechanism that's always left out in these discussions. It's left out when it comes to biological evolution, and it's also left out in cosmology. The filtering mechanism is death or non-functionality. So certain particles that come together either will stick together or they won't. So if they do stick together, they make a more complex particle. If they don't, then that's it. That they just don't stick together. So what you have is different component parts, different things flying around, and some of it works and some of it doesn't. The ones that don't work die. The ones that do work continue to exist. And so that filtering mechanism gets rid of the things that don't work. And you're left with only the things that do work. But again, we're not using actual science, reason, or logic. We're just asserting things as being true, hoping that that somehow gets to God, whatever God is. Our God, of course, it would have to be the one that I believe in, actually, because it's not your God. No, your God's wrong. The Allah God, the Scientology God, the Greek God. No. I'm talking about this. Well, I'm guessing he means the Christian, Judeo-Christian version of God. I don't know that that's the God he's going after. No idea. He never bothered to clarify. Yeah, I'm going to keep harping on that point. I'm going to keep doing that too, whatever that is.
Actual reason that the universe exists in the way that it does. There is no logical reason that the universe has consistent laws of physics. There's no.
Sure there is, but that would require understanding cosmology. And that's, well, it's beyond my station in life. Are you a cosmologist? And this is just appeal to ignorance, appeal to personal incredulity. I don't understand how it could be this way, therefore it's not this way. That's all you're doing.
No reason that it has to be that way. No laws write themselves. Somebody would have had to.
Okay, that's not what it means by the word law, but again, who cares? Whatever.
Consciously wrote the laws of physics into the fabric of the universe. Therefore, God is real. All right, so now we're going on to point number 2, which is what I want to call the Nuisance cosmological argument. I totally came up with it. Nobody else has ever said these things before.
Oh, good. This is going to be great. Let's see how many fallacies this argument has. Here we go.
Nobody's
ever said it. If you don't get the joke, it's that somebody probably said it before. If you look up on Google right now, what you'll see is that the Earth is 4 billion years old. When you look
good to know that you're not a young Earth creationist. At least you got that right. All right.
The actual time span that Earth has existed for, the whole idea of this theory of evolution that life came from non-material matter and then evolved into humanity just doesn't make sense.
Oh no, it doesn't make sense. Oh no, not that. Anything but not making sense. By the way, biological evolution is just true, and the thing that you're mentioning is abiogenesis. That's a separate discipline from evolution. So it just doesn't make sense. Abiogenesis just doesn't make sense to you. Okay, that's nice. And so what? Oh, but it just doesn't make sense. I just don't understand it. It's too complicated. All right, that doesn't make it false, though. You just don't understand it. So, well, maybe, I don't know, read a few books on it, watch a few lectures about it, I don't know, learn about it. It's a complicated thing. Abiogenesis is extremely complicated. I've listened to many things about it, and I've read things about it, and a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. But the things that do make sense, I'm like, yeah. But even when it doesn't make sense, that doesn't make it false. It just means I need to understand that better. I need to learn and improve myself to look up the words and find the definition and try to memorize it and remember what the bleep all of it is and what it means and how it works. And the thing is, with abiogenesis, there's been tests done on it. There's been experiments done on it. There's been models about it. So it is something that does happen and can work and functions. But you, in your loftiness of I don't know, whatever, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. So it's got to be false. I mean, I just don't. I don't get math. Math is just too hard. 1,000,000 to the power of 75.1. I don't understand that. So it's got to be wrong.
Number one, the whole concept of how life started, it wouldn't happen. Atheists believe that for the first couple billion years of Earth's existence, random chemicals were floating in the ocean, just randomly bumping into each other. And then
Atheists believe. Really? We do? Who said that? Did you poll atheists to find out what we believe? Or is this just another empty assertion? I think it's an empty assertion. So regarding abiogenesis, is it oceanic? Probably. But who says this? Is it atheists or is it scientists? Probably scientists who might also actually have a religious viewpoint as well. Many scientists are Christian and Catholic and Muslim and all sorts of other religions, and they might have other beliefs about God or gods. So I don't know. It's just an idea. We could look up, abiogenesis. We could find some peer-reviewed publications. We could find the author of that. We could find out what the author believes. We could compile a list of different people that have actually said things about abiogenesis and say, hey, look, I have a data spread here of a ton of names. Let's say 10. Let's just say 10. That seems like a reasonable number to do. 10 different scientists who have written peer-reviewed papers on abiogenesis. Find out who they are and what they believe. Let's see if they're all atheists. Maybe they might be. I don't know. But you don't know either. So, and even if it is the case that they all happen to be atheists, that doesn't negate their point, does it? But the point that I'm trying to make is you're not even doing the bare minimum of work to prove your assertions are true. So why should I or anyone else believe what you're saying is true? If there was there are chemicals still in our oceans even now. And those chemicals, under the right conditions, can come together and make more complicated forms. So we know that's true. We can observe that that's true. We can show that's true in laboratories. Yet, you want us to say, well, it doesn't make sense to me. Well, that doesn't matter. It's still how things work.
One day, the right combination of chemicals bumped into each other and it turned into like DNA. And then eventually DNA formed a cell. And then eventually the single cell
Well, RNA was first, but whatever.
Organism turned somehow into a multicellular organism that had.
I know, it's somehow because you haven't bothered to learn it. I understand that. You don't understand it. I get it. But that doesn't make it false. It's clear that you don't understand it, but that doesn't falsify it.
Had sex. And then this multicellular organism then evolved into all these different animals and eventually into humans, and did this all within 4 billion years of the Earth existing, but probably less. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Even if you were,
it's got to be false. It just doesn't make sense to you. It got to be false then. I mean, anything that doesn't make sense to you, It's gotta be false. This just doesn't make sense to me. Your video doesn't make sense to me. Must be false. Wow. Just really, I mean, the appeal to personal incredulity, it's just repeated. That's all this is. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me, therefore it's not true. That's all this is. Just, that's the fallacy you have performed several times. That it doesn't make sense to you is completely and wholly irrelevant.
Were to give it like double the amount of time, triple the amount of time, it would make it more plausible. But you still have this problem that immaterial chemicals become a living being. I don't understand the logistics of how random chemicals just all happen to meet up in the same place to make a bacteria cell. That logic.
It didn't happen like that, first of all. It's a very slow process. But yeah, we all understand that you don't understand it. What you don't seem to understand is that doesn't falsify that that's what happened.
Logically is something that would not happen. Abiogenesis, this idea that living things can come from non-living things, it simply is not true. And on top of that, even if it...
but it is true. So, okay.
Did happen. The fact that it could make all of these leaps from one cell to becoming a multicellular organism that has sex, then evolving into humans, it's just an impossibility. The only solution that you can make for this is that there's some kind of aliens that are like controlling us. And in which case, where did the aliens come from?
What? What? That is a non sequitur of extraordinary proportions. Come on, man. And what's the difference between aliens and God at this point? Oh, man. Just come on.
There's a God that just made us and we didn't evolve.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't understand it. So God just made us. We didn't evolve. There you go. Yeah, whatever. Just makes more sense that way. Wow. The lack of just everything. I don't even know. Like I said in my description of this, by the way, I don't know that this is a Poe video or not. I don't know, but I'm treating it as if it's not a Poe video. I mean, if it's a Poe video, just well done, you got me. And if it's not, then my word, you need to really get educated on these topics. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. You don't understand abiogenesis, then learn it. Just I mean, you just go learn it. I mean, it has to be God. Why? How? What is God? How does God work? Anyways, whatever. Okay, so this card's called just evolution makes no sense. It's just, oh man.
I think one of the biggest proofs of God being real comes from biology, specifically the Cambrian Explosion.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. How wrong is he going? Okay, taking all bets now. How wrong is he going to be on everything to do with the Cambrian Explosion? Alright, so before he gets going, so here's the thing. Cambrian Explosion. So what really is happening is, in the fossil record, certain things don't fossilize. Many substances don't fossilize. So before creatures had bones that would fossilize, those creatures are lost to us in history. Because, well, unless we have some other evidence of them other than a fossil, obviously. But as far as, there were creatures that didn't have hard structures that would survive fossilization process, right? So all of those creatures that existed before the Cambrian explosion just aren't being preserved. So what you have in the record is you have some species that were preserved, and then you have a whole bunch of species that are preserved in the record. But it's not like instantaneous. It's over thousands and thousands of years that this explosion occurs. And I'm probably getting that wrong at some degree because I'm not a scientist. Neither is this guy. But based on my limited understanding of the Cambrian explosion, that's what it is. But take everything I said with a grain of salt. I guess I could look up what the Cambrian explosion is and just, go off of that. And that probably would be far better than what I'm doing now. But I'm just wondering what he's going to get wrong about it based on my limited understanding of it. So first I'm going to do that. Then if I have to, like somebody really wants me to, have stuff on the Cambrian explosion, I mean, there's plenty of links I can find for it and resources I can find that lead you to better understanding of it than I ever could. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
Cambrian Explosion was an event approximately 541 million years ago where practically all animals supposedly evolved just randomly appeared. We somehow went from these celled organisms to these complex animal cell structures like platypuses and stuff.
Most people probably say, well, what does this have to do? How does this disprove evolution? How does this prove God's real? And the reason that people would say that is because, it fits with this idea that we started with a small amount of life and it gets bigger. There's a big problem, though. Ever since the Cambrian explosion, the amount of species that exist in the world has been going down. There are far less species in the world than there were during the Cambrian explosion. Far less species 1 million years ago than there were during the Cambrian explosion. There were far less species 100 million years ago than there were during the Cambrian explosion. If evolution was real, you would think that these species would continually divide into more and more and more species, but you don't.
That's not how evolution is. Species go extinct. Heard of the dodo? It went extinct. It's gone. So things can go extinct. I love how, people in my chat are giving this guy so much benefit of the doubt. He's like, this guy's got to be a Poe. This guy is just trolling. This guy's not real, right? Nothing he's saying is actually true, is it? Like, come on, Deconverted Man. This guy's a Poe. I don't care if he's a Poe. I'm treating it like it's real. Let me have my fun. But, I don't know. It's hard to know because, I looked at his about page and, his about page is it says, my name is Nuisance and welcome to your friendly hood. Main goal I have is to help you understand the obvious truths we take for granted. I talk about religion, memes, politics, psychology, internet drama, and how all these things affect our mind. I'm basically this generation's greatest philosopher. Yeah, so he kind of is full of himself. And if this is a Poe, good job. Whatever. More power to you. But regardless, all I do know is, Poe or not, making bad arguments and a lot of bad science. In fact, there's no science here. This isn't even anti-science. He's not even really trying. He's just it doesn't make sense. It has to be this. That's it. And they're like, well, if evolution is true, then this couldn't be true. But that's not how evolution works. So he doesn't understand how evolution works. So, whatever. I don't know. We're not done yet, though. He says he's a real human being. He's in our chat now. I told him to enjoy the show live as I go over how wrong this video is. And like I said, I'm no scientist, so I can't explain to him what he's getting wrong on the science. I can only comment on the logical fallacies produced. But basically, the only fallacy that's really been reoccurring is appeal to personal incredulity and also appeal to ignorance. Saying it doesn't make sense to me, that's appeal to personal incredulity. and saying, I don't understand, therefore it's God, that's appeal to ignorance as well as God of the gaps. But anyways, so clearly you don't understand evolution, and so for some reason, somehow, that means God exists. I don't know how you got to that conclusion, but okay.
Don't see that. See, all of these animals popped into existence via unexplained means that science doesn't understand. The point.
No, science does understand it, and they didn't just pop into existence. Remember what I said about my limited understanding of the Cambrian Explosion? Yeah. So he got that wrong. Yeah, I predicted that right, that he got it wrong. It's funny that he used Google earlier for the age of the Earth, but he hasn't used Google on the Cambrian Explosion or abiogenesis or for any of these other things. I don't know. It just seems to me that if you did, you might get a result. Let's see. Cambrian Explosion. Let's see what Google says. If I can spell Cambrian Explosion. Cambrian Explosion. Yeah, fix it for me, Google. You know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Okay, let's just do this just for fun. Let's just see. You know, I mean, come on. I mean, it's got to be really complicated. I mean, maybe it's the let's see, the unparalleled emergence of organisms. Event was characterized by, so there you go. I mean, yeah, it says all sorts of stuff about it here. You know, all right, you know, so. You know, what caused it? You can find out there. What was it? Why did it? Is it important? How does it affect evolution? You know, so you could. I mean, there's things you could click on to find out about it. So, but we're not going to do that. You know, why would we bother with learning? You know, when it's much easier to just be like, I don't understand it, therefore God. That's way easier. So let's go back. Got to go back to the video, and let's keep not proving God.
Point that they call an explosion, and then ever since then life has just been dwindling and dwindling away, getting less and less and less. This is a little bit of a reach. Perhaps this Cambrian explosion is the creation myth.
That
What?
brings us into our fourth point. We will never make a robot that can actually feel. We can try, but the most we can make is a robot that, let's say you slap it, it won't actually feel that pain. All it will be is just a sensor going off and then it triggering a response.
What? Wait, what? What does this have to do with anything, even if it is true? How do you know that that's the case? Like, how do you know that we will never do this? Like, how could you ever make such a statement? Really? No, answer the question. Like, what does this have to do with anything? This is the biggest non sequitur I've ever heard. What the bleep? I have to talk about robots now? Okay, why not? All right. Did you know that we have made cellular, programmable, biological, what we're calling robots? No? You didn't know that? Yeah. They've taken cells and they've modified the cells to do work. So the cells just push things around. And that's pretty cool. It has lots of applications for medicine and things like this. Okay, so if you took, there's ongoing research into making cellular circuitry. So making circuitry that is alive. So it has the same functionality as circuits in a computer, but it's living cells instead of microchips. Okay, so if you did that, then yes, you could indeed build a machine made out of living components that would have the same pain sensations as other animals do, because you could put pain receptors in there, and since they're alive and they are pain receptors, then if you hit it, it would feel the same sort of pain that other animals feel, including us. Could you do it by pure non-living materials? I have no idea. I don't know. But if it simulates pain to itself and it thinks that it's pain, then it's pain. But now we've gone so far off into the deep end, I don't even know where we are anymore. So we can't do AI, therefore God, I guess is the argument here. It's not even an argument. I don't even know what it is. Help me. Somebody help me. Let's go back to the video. We're almost done. Oh, man.
See, like, atheists say that we're just this organic machine, that we're essentially a
What atheists say that? But yeah, we are kind of just an organic machine. So I guess now I have said it. But you didn't know that.
deterministic robot that's operating off of, code. But we're obviously much more than just a machine. I think the most obvious proof that there is a supernatural world is the fact that you feel things. If I go and I pinch...
Wait a minute. Okay. Here we go with the counterexample now. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the fact that you feel pain or anything is proof of God. Okay, sure. All right, I'll grant that. Why not? So, what do you do with this then? Here, let me bring this up here. So, congenital insensitivity to pain is a rare disorder. It's very rare and extremely dangerous. People with it can't feel pain. So I guess that proves there isn't a God then, because there are some people who can't feel things. So checkmate. There you go. Found your counterexample. Anyways, whatever.
My hand right here, I'm physically feeling this pain. I'm not getting a message in my head saying sensor 999 in hand organ has been harmed. No, I am...
Well, that's... you are getting... your brain does receive it in that way, but your conscious mind doesn't. You're not aware of all the internal processes going on. You don't know about all your white blood cells and what they're doing and all that. It's just too much to keep track of. Your brain doesn't need to know all that. There's a biological reason we're not aware of that. But you know what is interesting? Pinch your toe and your finger at the same time. And you will feel it at the same time. You shouldn't, because you should feel your foot after your finger. You should feel the toe after the finger. If you touch your toe with your finger, you don't even have to pinch it. Just touch your toe with your finger and you feel both the toe and the finger simultaneously. But you should feel your finger and then your toe, because your leg is longer than your arm. Your arm's closer to your brain. So the brain gets both signals, but it gets one after the other within milliseconds of each other, but still. And the brain says, I'm going to delay the receiving of this signal. Why does your brain do that? Must be God!
Physically feeling it. How is that not proof that you are greater than just matter? You're not just...
You feel those things because you need to navigate the real world. Fuck it.
A machine. You are more than just matter. You have some kind of greater thing that has been infused into the matter.
Wow, a greater thing infused into the matter, huh? But you're talking about nerve cells, which is still physical. At no point do we need to invoke anything other than biology to explain any of this. This is just bald assertion. That's it. It's gotta be that way, though. It just has to, because I said it does. Okay, We're all lobsters. Why are we lobsters? Because I said that we have to be lobsters. That's the only way you can make sense of anything, is if we're lobsters. If we're not lobsters, nothing makes sense. Therefore, we're lobsters. Brilliant. Yeah, it's just brilliant. All right, keep going. It can only get worse from here.
Something almost akin to a soul. And that soul is what feels the matter. We will never be able to make an AI that can be human or even close to a human, because a robot will never be able to feel.
How do you know
but that brings us on to our final point. Before me and Noah explain this point, I think it's important to establish, although your average...
Wouldn't it be better to have the argument the other way around? Like, we could make a robot that can feel, and therefore there must be, if we can do that, right, we'll become like God, and therefore there is a God. See, that would be a better, maybe, or I mean, not, it wouldn't be a good argument. Never mind. I take it back. It'd still be a bad argument. It'd be more interesting though. Maybe, yeah. I'll leave. Yeah, we're almost done. Let's just get through this.
Atheist out on the street doesn't like to admit it. All historians, unless they are totally ostracized from the scientific community, will tell you that Jesus was a real person.
No, not all historians will say that, Walls, and I love this. I always love this assertion that apologists do. Give me a list of the historians that all agree on this. You don't have it. It doesn't exist. It's just an empty assertion. And Jesus being a person. Yeah, I know. There's people in Mexico right now named Jesus. So what? I guess he's been talking about the Christian version of God this whole time. We didn't know until just now. Because otherwise, why would he bring up Jesus? Who cares about Jesus? He does, I guess. All right, so Jesus actually is a historical figure. That doesn't mean that the things that he is said to have done in the Bible are also historical events. There's a difference.
He walked on earth. He was crucified, and that people thought performed all these miracles and thought...
Yeah, they thought. Yeah, they sure did think it, or at least they recorded it later at some point that he did. But who cares? Did he actually do any of it? No, he didn't.
That he rose from the dead.
Throughout the Old Testament, there's all these prophecies of the Messiah. In Psalms, there's one that literally talks about his crucifixion. And what?
The Psalms one. Are you gonna at least give us the biblical reference for it so I can point out how you're wrong theologically speaking, or are you just gonna say it's somewhere in Psalms?
But a lot of people fail to realize none of these could have been fulfilled by just like anyone. It had to be God. Why would he want to do that? For whatever reason.
Okay, so yeah, you didn't even tell us where in Psalms to find it. Making it that since you didn't tell us where in the Bible to find it, under Christian theology, when somebody doesn't use the Bible to support their theistic ideas, that person is a false prophet. Congratulations. Under Christian theology, you and your friend are false prophets, and as such, no Christian should listen to you. Well done for not quoting the Bible and telling us the verse. Yay! False prophets, everybody. Well done. Not that I care, because I don't care what the Bible says. I'm not a Christian, so I don't care about your theology, but I just thought it would be interesting to note that under Christian theology, if you do not use the Bible to back your claims about what the Bible says, you don't give the verse, you are a false prophet. And no one should listen to you. Anyways, also the psalm that I think he's talking about, Jewish people don't recognize that as prophecy. Also, since the story was written after that thing was written down, there's nothing to prevent somebody from just making up the story and saying that happened. And this fulfilled that prophecy. Oh, how convenient. And finally, there's also nothing to prevent the writer from changing what was in the Old Testament to align with the New Testament, which is something that Jewish people also complain about happens with the Torah. The Torah is different than the Old Testament, and the differences are remarkable and very important. The Jewish people do not recognize Jesus as the Messiah for multiple reasons. None of the things that they were looking for and that they prophesied come true in Jesus. Not even close, not a little bit, not at all. Period. End of story. Thanks for playing. The things that the Christians claim are prophecies are not what Jewish people say were prophecies. But again, who cares about actual history, logic, and reason? We're just going to pretend that this is all true. Okay, sure, whatever.
Reason why would he want to do that? Why would he want to go around his entire life and try to fulfill all these prophecies when he knows he's going to die a certain way? Nobody would just do that.
See, I think people don't understand the true importance of the story of Jesus. The true
I don't care about what you think the true importance of the Jesus story is. I don't think that you would know the true anything about anything at this point, based on how many logical fallacies you've had so far, and, well, not that I care, but the theological problems that you also have, the scientific problems that you don't understand. I don't know. But none of that proves God. Not even a little. Does he say anything that could prove God within the last few minutes? He's only got 2 left. Let's fast forward through it so we can get through it. And then we'll be done with this, and I'll never have to deal with this again. Unless he decides to come on and talk to me live. That will be entertaining.
True beauty in it is that Jesus came right at the perfect time when history was just beginning to be written down, and that those records would be kept. And the fact is,
yeah, but Jesus should have appeared in China where writing was rampant, like literacy was widespread, but instead Jesus appears in an illiterate country. Brilliant. I don't know. Seems to me that Jesus could have waited until there was cameras around and videotape, so that we could have videotaped all this and had decent documentation of it. Whatever.
there was a real man who fulfills all of these prophecies of a Messiah. Even in his death, the Old Testament says that he'd be pierced on his hands and his feet.
Look,
you can say maybe that story was fabricated, but you really look at the Bible, it definitely wasn't. It wouldn't be possible without there being a bunch of errors.
Hey, he showed the thing. He showed the thing I complained about him not showing. He actually showed the thing. I take back the thing that I said about being a false prophet now. Damn it.
And you can say maybe that story was fabricated, but you really look at the Bible, it definitely wasn't. It wouldn't be possible without there being a bunch of errors in the text. There'd be a bunch of contradictions with all these different authors writing about.
Yeah, there are a lot of contradictions. It's easy to make up a contradiction-free story. Read The Lobsteress. There's no contradictions in it. Anyways.
About the same thing.
And for the people who think that there is a bunch of contradictions, we'll be making a video on that sometime soon.
Jesus really lived. He really fulfilled these prophecies. And if he really lived, God has to be real. Listen, I know a lot of atheists might say, you're not exactly right on that point. Maybe you're a little bit right, Mr. Nuisance, but you're not exactly right on this point. As I said at the beginning of this video, my point isn't to 100% prove it in any one of these points. My point that I have 5 points that all 70-ish% prove God's pretty real. All these points alone prove nothing, but all of these points together proves.
No, they don't. None of these things together prove anything because that's not how logic functions.
Something. How many coincidences do there have to be that all point to the same conclusion before we accept that this must be the conclusion? The fact is that if you can look at all of this evidence that we presented in this video and still say there is no way to know that there is God, when you look at these 5 things together, there's no way that you can come out from this video unless you're willfully ignorant and say there is no God. If you can seriously say that after watching this video all the way through and considering what we just said in these 5 different points, you would have to accept that God is reality. So there we go.
So at the end there, we've just got a complete and utter poisoning of the well. If you come to a different conclusion than the one that I want you to come to, you're an idiot. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Yeah, you're just so after listening to my video, if you come to a different conclusion than deconverted man, you're just wrong. That's not how things work. You know, if you come to a different conclusion than I came to, good. Let's talk about that. Let's debate it. Let's use reason and logic and make an argument and analyze the argument for fallacies and make it the best argument that we can make and shape each other's argumentation using logic and temper each other to the point where our argument blows the other one out of the water. It's like, okay, I get what you're saying. It is valid and sound. You've made your argument. You've convinced me. That's what I would want. If you disagree with me, which is good, by the way, I'm not going to tell you that, oh, if you disagree with me, you're just wrong. That's just insanity there. That's just craziness. This is just that. All right, well, there's this video. There you guys go. And, he was the guy that made the video, showed up in chat. I don't know if he's still around or not. And some friends of his, I think, showed up in chat as well. And I just ignored it because I was doing the thing. I guess, should I invite him on to talk? Sure, why not? I'm crazy enough to do that. Hey, guy, if you're still listening to this, if you want to come on live to talk, give me a day and time, and we'll do that. Not today, though, because I'm done today. This is it for today. I'm done after this. But yeah, my email is deconvertedman1@gmail.com. It's on my About page, and you can just email me and let me know and all that. Yeah, so they said this sucked. Now I know why you get no views. Yeah, I got no views. Yeah, I mean, Brian, he's not a view. Snuffy's not a view. Thinbox Trick Treater's not a view. None of these people, they're not views. Not that that matters, by the way. The number of views that something has doesn't really matter or prove that anything is true. It should cover better apologists. There are no better apologists. Not a viewer. Yes, I have 2K subs. The amount of subs that somebody has doesn't matter. The numbers don't mean anything. It's whether or not the idea is true or false. Do you have an argument? You don't. Nobody watches me. Yeah, no one watches me. Blaster Master, not in a person. He's a nobody. Brian Stevens, you're a nobody. Again, not that it matters, but I love that. I love that the last resort I have in my arsenal of tools is an ad hominem. I'm going to attack the person and not the argument. Brilliant. I withdraw my invitation to come and talk to me on my channel because of that. I usually don't do that. But you know what? You don't get to come and be on my awesome channel now. Get an argument. And maybe, here's an idea. Read a book that isn't the Bible for once. Because maybe then you'll actually learn something new. We didn't have a valid and sound argument, that's for sure. Nor did we have any empirical evidence, or any evidence at all. And we certainly didn't have any repeated tests. Nor did we have any model presented. We had nothing of value in this video that I covered here. So, what should we do with his conclusions then? Well, I would say the best that we could do would be to be skeptical of his conclusions. But maybe, because of all the fallacies and all the things that he got wrong, perhaps we should go a step further in this case and say that not just that we should be skeptical of these conclusions, but that these conclusions are wrong and that they could never be right given these conditions. Thanks for listening. Post your comments, your questions, and other things that you want to in the comment section below. And that's it. Thanks for doing a thing. Hey, and if you want to send me better apologists to do videos on, please do that. I'll do it. I'll cover it. I'll do all the things. You know. So thanks. I don't know if you enjoyed this. Maybe you didn't. I don't care. It was a thing you did. Can't undo it. Can't unsee this video. I know I would lose in the debate. Yeah, I do. I do know that. Man. I should take that. I should run with it. I'll tell you what. I'll debate you. Sure, I'll debate you. But it'll be on a topic of my choosing. You'll get one syllogism only, and it will be analyzed by Yin Yang Mountain, and he will conduct a logical analysis of it, and whoever has the most amount of fallacies loses and has to admit that they lost live on camera. If you're willing to agree to those conditions, then absolutely I'll debate you. I know it's a lot of conditions. You're never going to agree to that. Why would you? All right, I'm done. See you later. Goodbye. Wee. Okay, hit the button. We're done now. It's been an hour. I've been doing this.